Today's video is going to be about creating a magical winter nighttime sky using my Distress Oxide inks, but I'm also going to be doing a little experimenting with a metallic gold paint pen. If you are interested in any of the supplies that I'm using today, they will be linked down below in the video description. Now, one of the main products that I'm going to be using today is the Intricate Bottle Brush Trees. And what this is a 4-piece die set. And one thing I didn't realize about this when I had first started die cutting them is that there are actually 2 different trees for each so that you can layer them together to create a nice full tree. I don't think it really matters which one would go on the bottom or which one would go on the top. But when I did my die cutting, I had kind of compiled them all into one pile. So I separated them out. You're going to notice for the 2 big trees, there's one that has a little bit smaller of a top and another one that has more of a branchy kind of look to it. So all I did was add liquid glue to the main stem that goes right down the middle. And then I layered those 2 over the top. So now it's a nice full tree. I went ahead and did that for 2 more so I can have 3 total for the larger trees. On the smaller tree, you really need to kind of look towards the top of the trees to see which ones are different, and then just layer those 2 together as well. I am not going to end up using the smaller trees today, but I did glue them together since I did already have them die cut, and I'm just going to place them into the packaging to use on a future card. I'm going to work on creating that magical winter scene that I had mentioned at the beginning of the video, and I'm using kind of a unique color combination, and I'm also trying something a little different. So this was kind of an experimentation for me. I started out with a saltwater taffy down towards the bottom. I didn't go all the way down because I knew I would be placing a frame over the top. Now I'm coming in with a blueprint sketch, which is a huge jump when it comes to the colors, but really I'm just going to lay down the color first. I like to kind of lay it all out and then come back and blend the 2 colors together. I'm going to next bring in prize ribbon. This one I added, but I don't really end up using it a lot because there wasn't a significant difference between blueprint sketch and the prize ribbon. So I end up kind of skipping that later on. Then I'm going to come in towards the top with a Villainous potion. And you can see I brought in a Post-it note that's kind of protecting my fingertips and also protecting my cardstock. Now you can see I'm starting to kind of make these weird shapes on my background with the Villainous potion. The reason I was doing this is I really wanted to try creating northern lights. That's something I don't think I've ever really done on my cards before. So I was kind of experimenting with this. And these 2 lighter areas that kind of shoot up are what I was imagining being the northern lights coming up. It doesn't quite play out, but it's an idea I really want to expand on. At this point, I'm really just trying to blend out my colors. One of the reasons I brought in the Distress Oxides is because they layer over the top of each other because of them being a dye and pigment ink mix. So once I have that done, I wanted to try and emphasize having the northern lights being in that area. So I brought in a white pigment ink and a blending brush, and I tapped off quite a bit on my work surface and then dragging that up or brushing that up light-handedly up towards the top of the cardstock. Normally, I don't recommend using a blending brush with a pigment ink, but in this case, I was really trying to get that streaky light look in the background. Now, I know better when it comes to my backgrounds, and I know a lot of times that you have to kind of walk away from it or maybe just start building your scene for it to really come together. So I die cut out an arched frame from a piece of white cardstock to create a window. And then I also have this hillside, and I'm going to make this a snowy hillside. I don't remember exactly where I got it from, but I'm going to link one that I use quite often from Lawn Fawn. This one just happened to be laying on my desk at the time. I layered that behind my window right up towards the top because it wasn't a very big piece and I wanted that to come up quite a ways so I had something to ground my trees. I'm bringing in my trees to kind of get an idea how this is looking again. Still wasn't quite feeling it, but I keep going because I know a lot of times it'll just kind of come together towards the end. I went ahead and I added my trees, just adding the liquid glue right at the bottom of the tree trunk, so it's only attached to the hillside at that point. I brought my panel over to my Splat Box. I'm splattering it with white acrylic spray that I just have diluted with a little bit of water to kind of create my snowy background. And here is another experiment that I wanted to try. So, an example I seen on Pinterest was they had this beautiful kind of swirly mix of gold speckles. And I have this DecoColor, like a Marvy gold paint pen. And mine happens to be a chisel tip, but I know they make bullet points out there. So, for the chisel tip, I am using the very, very edge of the chisel so I can get those little specks. And I kind of just added them going in a line across the sky. Now, I don't quite know if my northern lights look like northern lights at this point, but I still really enjoyed the magical background. You can see there on the left-hand side that the gold really pops. I do recommend playing around with a paint pen and adding speckles to your background because it really does do something to that and just kind of adds that touch of magic. Now, in all of that, I did add foam tape behind my arch window so I can pop this up on the front of my panel. And while this didn't quite go as expected, I am still really happy with the results. You can see that we're kind of blocking with the trees that mix of Saltwater Taffy and Blueprint Sketch. So I kind of like that transition since it's hidden a little bit. Now, one thing I don't do very often is use heat embossing with black cardstock. I actually don't do a ton of heat embossing, but I really want to start using it a little bit more. So I prepped a piece of black cardstock with an anti-static powder tool. I stamped a sentiment from the Making Spirits Bright Stamp set, which is my favorite for the holiday season this year. I'm sprinkling on gold embossing powder, and then I'm going to melt that with my heat tool. Now, I wasn't sure if I wanted this sentiment or kind of more of a skinny strip sentiment, so I did do another one off screen. I am matching up coordinating dies for that larger sentiment, and then I used my sentiment label die set to trim out the skinny one because I don't trust myself cutting a straight line. So I played around with the different layouts as far as if I wanted the larger one, the smaller one. I honestly just think at first I was struggling with the fact that it was black cardstock. I think black is fantastic. It stands out. It pops from the white trees. I just really needed to kind of pick one and go with it. So that is what I did. I used the larger one. I added thin black foam squares to the back, and then I'm placing that over my trees. I thought about placing it up towards the top, but I didn't want to cover up those beautiful gold speckles in the background. So that was a little creative play there for you. I hope you found some tips in this video. Maybe you have this die set or something similar to it, and maybe you have a gold pen in your stash that you could try this with and create some northern lights of your own. It's definitely a technique that I want to work on a little bit more. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Here is another video that I think you might enjoy.